Simple, secure currency transfers from once-in-a-lifetime property purchase of your dreams to everyday expenses. Currencies Direct helps you save time and money on international transfers. Rated excellent on Trustpilot with over 17,000 positive reviews. Spend like a local with their multi-currency MasterCard. Tap the link in the show notes to get started.
Please.
This is Podcast Portugal with Justin West. I'm absolutely stoked, electrified, and everything you can possibly imagine to be interviewing today the legendary Tigerman, Paulo Furtado.
The pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, man, thank you so much. I know you're a really busy man, and I'm seeing your posters all over the Alentejo at the moment, advertising your gigs.
Cool.
And all my friends, particularly my Portuguese friends, are going, "What? You get to interview the legendary Tigerman? How well are you doing with your podcast?" So I'm really happy. I'm really stoked. Thank you so much. And I've also got to shout out a friend of mine, Sarah Shmoo. She said she knows you from back in the day. So we did a jiu-jitsu contest together up in Barcelona just recently. So, Paulo, how blues music and how did that sort of shape your sounds, and where's all your influences drawn from, and tell us your story.
Yeah, I think when I was a teenager, I think there was a vinyl that really struck me. It was a compilation. The Blues Came Down from Memphis, I guess was the name, and it had a lot of the first bluesmen from Memphis. It had Dr. Ross. It had one song that struck me, King of the Jungle, Tigerman, from Rufus Thomas, and a lot more stuff that really struck me, and it was an album that I really loved. I was listening to the Cramps, to the Sonics, all these bands, and then suddenly I listened to this and I think, whoa, this is fucking wild, maybe wilder than everything that came after. And so I dove into the rabbit hole, I guess, and then a few years later, when I was on tour with the Teddy Boys, we had a day off and we were playing with this we had like the bill was Teddy Boys, Blue Mountain, and Southern Culture on the Skids, I guess, at the time, and we had a day off in Oxford, Mississippi, from where Fat Possum was, and then the guys from Blue Mountain asked me to play. They were playing at a festival, so I played slide with them for a while. So I think then I met Matt from Fat Possum, and he gave me all the discography. Pretty much he had in 1998, I guess, from Fat Possum, which was mostly a big mix of raw blues, of this raw Delta blues, and it felt a lot of really punk for me, for for some reason too. So I think that was the moment when I met all these guys, and then some when I was touring in the US, everyone was really so nice, teaching me open tunings, and ways to play guitar that I honestly at the point didn't know, and I was totally amazed by it. And and immediately I tried when I came back from that tour. Immediately I was like, I want to do something, that's more bluesy and less garage and less rock and roll. And when I was rehearsing, I think it was in 1999, something like that. Yeah. In the summertime, there was an hi-hat and a kick drum in the garage that I was rehearsing. So I was trying all these open tunings, and one day I just get the kick and the hi-hat, and I tried to do something that works rhythmically while I'm playing guitar, and that I think was the start of the Legendary Tigerman. Really, it was some part an obsession with the blues, and some part I think it was real chance that the kick drum and the hi hat were there, and then that the songs that I was playing made sense in a kind of a one man band format.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing to think where a lot of that blues music came from, particularly down there in the Mississippi Delta and all
Yeah,
that area. I think when I was 15, 16, I was really into Muddy Waters. Like
yeah.
I just really, I don't know, there was something about the rhythm, about the movement. Yeah, it was really, really cool. So you've often said before that music is about sex, death, and the devil. Does that still hold true for you today?
Um, yeah, and about life. I think life is a big part of it too.
Yeah.
I think the devil or good or bad or whatever we wanna, or yin or yang or whatever we wanna call it. It's a balance, and everything else is balancing between that, whatever we call it. And I think music, especially rock and roll and blues and whatever we wanna call it too, kinda kinda are between those two concepts. And also, when I started playing, I wanted it to make. I think I tried to make it as simple as I could, s- so it could be as hypnotic. I really loved in the beginning of Tiger Man. I really loved, if I could just do the same, lick for like 3 minutes, that would be perfect for me. I didn't need a second lick.
Yeah.
And I've always liked that hypnotic side of the blues, and I tried to explore it as much as I could. And I also discovered, I think it was very close to that time, also another band that was very influential, that were the Suicide. So I think in my mind, and maybe, if we take a fast forward between 99 and now, and the last album has a lot of electronics mixed with the guitars, all that stuff, and modular synthesizers. I think it was, my mind was always between, those two, those two ideas, that rawness of and hypnotic feel of the blues licks, and then this other rawness of the electronic music that can, it can be something else than just, clean synthesizers. It can be pretty rough too. So those, I think, were the key influences to my music.
Yeah, I also noticed, and what I've really enjoyed watching is some of your Instagram posts. You have a real nice eye for almost like cinematic filmography as well. Is that something that you're getting into more recently, or have you always been into that sort of filming and cinematography, filmography?
uh i f- I think what really struck me and made me want to be a musician before, I had bands was like music for cinema, and I think I didn't realize that at the time, but then it all came together more or less in the same period, because when I started doing bands and I started doing music for amateur theater plays and stuff like that, and since the beginning of Tigerman, I immediately started filming in Super 8, which was the
Ah, yeah.
cheapest and the most interesting, most portable way of making cinema, and I still do these days. So yeah, and I'm more and more and more I'm doing music for cinema and series and theater too, of course. And that is something that I think sometimes people ask me why why, oh, you just do one album every 5 years. Uh,
Yeah.
um, until like 2011 or 12, I was doing almost intercalated albums between Tigerman and Reagan, and then still doing a lot of music for cinema and more these days in between. So in the end, I think I probably now am doing like 5 to 8 soundtracks every year. So that
Amazing.
keeps me really busy, and it's something that I like to do more and more.
Yeah, I mean, and tell me, like, I'm super interested in a lot of the readers or a lot of the listeners here will be really interested in the early days of Portugal, because the early days of the punk scene here is actually it was actually quite strong. Sarah was telling me about in Coimbra,
Hmm.
and also the guy that shapes some of my surfboards, Nuno Matter over in Costa Caparica. He was
Hmm.
heavily into the whole punk scene, and it was a big scene in Portugal. I know in the UK, I'm originally from the UK, and obviously I know pretty much a lot about that, but I don't know much about the Portuguese scene. How was it growing up in those early days, and how did that reflect, do you think, the kind of political situation in Portugal and the whole the culture?
Well, there was a scene, like in the 80s, a bit before uh, our scene, or and like a second wave of punk, I would say,
Mhm.
that came with Teddy Boys and other bands, and I think there was more of a Coimbra was really something else. It was like Memphis in Portugal, if I
Really?
could say it. It was like the rock and roll town. You if you came to Coimbra in the 90s, you would be amazed, because there there would be, all the kids dressed with leather jackets and high creepers and that kind of, you know and looking like rock and rollers. And I think, at that time, I think the Clash were a big influence. And of course punk and rock and roll, all the rock and roll, all the rhythm and blues, all the blues were like an enormous influence for us. And it was kind of different than the other rock and roll that was happening in Portugal, which didn't have the mix of punk that I think we had, and that, in Lisbon and Porto, most of the rock and roll scene was like more connected with rockabilly than punk at some time. But yeah, but for us it was really, we lived like 24/7 for music. I guess we that was all we did, and that was all. Yeah, I learned really a lot, in those times. I learned, how to do stuff. If we couldn't get gigs, I would rent, someplace. I would rent a PA. I would, print the tickets, get the licenses, and get it done, and just do it. We were a bit like that if we needed something, we would grab it, and that was, I think it still is for me. It's still a bit like that these days. If I feel that I want to do something, and and it seems impossible, then I just chase it until it's possible. I guess.
Great. No, I mean, forgive me if I'm kind of being a bit presumptuous, but you strike me as a person who is super creative and really talented. But you also strike me as a person who's like you said, will go for something, or will be able to get the paperwork for a venue, will be able to drive the what you need and organize everything to and you have multi skills. Like you're good at with the camera, you're good with the obviously the performances and presentation. And I think, like you see these days, you almost have to be a man of multi talents, to really push what you want to do.
Yeah, yeah, but you know what? I think these days there's writing letters to people, or renting a place. I think it was, and getting posters done, and gluing them. I think it was more fun, or even driving for 15 hours on tour. It was more fun than having to post on Instagram,
Yeah, I
or
got you.
have to promote. That's why I got a bit fed up with labels, and I in the last album I still was on contract with Sony France, and I decided I wanted to come out, and it was probably, in result wise, it was probably the worst, decision in my career.
Oh no, oh no.
but uh, but for for my mental health, I think it was really good, because these days, I've I think people in labels are always, trying to think of something else to catch the audience's attention, apart from a good record. And I honestly understand it's very difficult these days, even to know that a band that I really love released an album. Sometimes I find out like 4 months later.
Hmm.
So if I don't go to record stores, to a local record store, and talk with people about what's happening, I think it's really difficult to keep up with what's happening in the music world. So
Do you think that's just
but
because there is so much content and there's so much stuff
yeah,
out
there's
there
so much
grabbing for
content.
attention?
But in a way, it's pretty cool too, because it's pretty easy for a kid now to record an album with just a laptop or a guitar or whatever, with
Mm,
very simple home studio equipment, and get an album out there and be heard.
mm.
The problem is where we find him, or how we find him, or how can his music reach us, and that's, I think is a problem for everyone, because there's just too much,
Mm.
there's just too much music, too much films, too much series, too much everything.
Yeah,
These
yeah.
days, I think, what applies to the planet. We are producing too much, we are consuming too much, we are doing. I think, if we apply that thought to art, I think we are also, really doing too much, and consuming too much music. Sometimes we don't really know what we are consuming when we are on Spotify, and sometimes it changes from what you were hearing to something
Yeah.
else that you don't know. And sometimes it's cool, sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
But it's just, I think, as an artist, I try not to occupy too much space. I try not to release every piece of music that I do. I try just to release what I really think should be released, because if not, we're just being part of the problem, just
Mm.
part of the noise. And I think
Yeah.
at this point, as an artist, you know, every time I'm composing for a film, there's another artist that's not composing for that film. Every time I'm putting out a new album, I'm occupying space. So I think we must be responsible with the space we occupy, because now we are a lot of not only a lot of people in the world, but also a lot of artists in the world. And I think, you know uh, doing art responsibly is something that we should do in this new millennium.
Yeah. Definitely, it's more like quality rather than quantity. And we all fall victim to it. We're distracted so often by screens. We need to be very disciplined. And there is
Yeah,
days that I on purposely leave the phone in the house, and I'll spend 9 hours outside in the field here, with my son or just with the dogs, and you just
yeah.
have that real sense of quiet and time and space. And it's something I used to get actually when I was younger from surfing, but I don't tend to get that so much anymore, because even in the waves, even in the surf, it's like so busy, because I read somewhere that you surf as well, right?
No,
No,
I
okay. Well,
no,
where did
no,
I
no, no.
get that at?
It's something that
That
that I've been trying to get out of Wikipedia for like a decade.
yeah, I was
I
reading. I was like, hey,
no
okay.
idea. I have no idea how that happened.
Yeah, that's
And
funny.
I don't know. There's just one photo that I remember. I went once, like maybe 25 years ago. I went after a night out. I lived in Coimbra. Maybe it was more, maybe, yeah, 25 or 30 years ago. I took the train to Figueira da Foz. I stayed out all night, and then I went to the beach, and then I was dressed with a uh, black leather long coat, and there was a friend of mine that had a longboard. So I have a photo with a longboard dressed in leather. And I don't know if that was how it all started, but
It's
it
crazy.
was the
It's fake.
closest
It's basically fake
and
news.
the closest experience that I had to surf. So I don't really know why it still is there. I've made a lot of claims saying, "Look, I've never did surf," but
That's good.
well,
Well, we put that
it's
one to rest then.
there.
That's awesome. No, I
Yeah.
had a bunch of things to talk to you about surfing and how rhythm and space and time, but no worries. That's all good. Yeah. So what are you doing now? I noticed in Alentejo, like I said earlier, there's a bunch of posters going on. So there's some concerts going on here, and do you tour quite often still?
Yeah, yeah, I'm still touring a bit. I'm not touring as much as I toured in the past. I'm more in the studio. Now I'm actually uh d- doing the movie for a film. It's an American Portuguese co-production.
Mhm.
It's something that's about the the Nova Convention in New York about around 1978, I guess. And it's got a lot of never seen footage of Patti Smith and a lot of artists from that time. It was something. Um, the center of the convention was William Burroughs. So there's Ginsberg also. It's a it's an amazing documentary, and it's directed by Aaron Bruckner and Rodrigo Araes. And it's something that I think it's going to be an amazing document. I think it's going to be released by the end of the year, and I'm
Okay.
working on the soundtrack now. And then all summer long, I'm having a few festivals, smaller or bigger, and almost every month I got a new film coming in. So that will be my summer.
I'm always amazed how much like artists, musicians, how much you work. You know, the time and the effort you put in everything. Like as I'm getting a little bit older now, and I don't necessarily have the energy. And I see people still with so much energy doing stuff. I'm like a little bit jealous. Like, I mean, going on a tour and a concert of a festival, it must take a lot out of you. You know, how do you keep fit? Do you like work out and eat well and all that kind of stuff, or you're still on the rock and roll diet?
No, no. Yeah, I try to work out and did the best I can, at least during
Mm.
the week. And now I'm moving to the country. The studio is already
Oh,
here. We are
nice.
moving this month. So that's I think the most challenging gym
Yeah.
is like take care of the land and stuff. And
Ah, that's
so
cool. That's great. What can I
I
ask
think that
whereabouts? You don't need to tell me exactly, but in what region of Portugal? More.
yeah, it's half an hour from Lisbon, south,
Oh, yeah.
close to Setúbal.
Ah, so you're not so far away from us. We are a little bit further down, just a bit, maybe 30 minutes in from Porto.
Ah, okay,
It's not
cool,
so far.
cool, cool,
Yeah, no,
nice.
man, it's a seriously good move. Like as soon as I turn off that highway, I used to live in Lagos. I used to live in Sagres. Used to live in Ericeira. And now, as soon, especially in the summer, as soon as I turn off the main highway there and just head more east, I just start to breathe.
Yeah,
There's no cars on the road. I can
yeah,
go to
yeah,
the
yeah.
supermarket and there'll be like one person like looking at the fruit.
Yeah,
um,
that's perfect.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
I'm
neighbors
really
of
looking forward. At the moment, the house should have been ready last July, so I left, and it's taking,
I
like
know.
the work house are taking so long, but now it's ready.
Oh, that's
And
great. That's
yeah,
You've done better than us. So we're actually living in a house and it's still half done. We still got a
fuck.
big hole in it. Yeah, man. It's really hard to find builders, actually.
It
Um,
is.
really
It's a
hard.
Portuguese thing, and then the schedules are always like this. They say when you're here 2 months, you can expect at least four, and it will probably be eight.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well,
Yeah,
our builders, they'll do an amazing quote and they'll, that's really reasonable. And they'll say, oh, yeah, we'll be there in a month. And then I don't hear from them again. But,
there was this guy that he assembles kitchens.
yeah.
He said something about. He said a really nice joke about construction workers, that it's constructors are the only guys that get to work on Wednesday, and they arrive, let's say, at noon with a beer in their hands, and we are happy
Yeah,
to see them
yeah,
say,
yeah.
"Hey,
No, that's
welcome,
so true. My
let me
God, that's so
pay."
true. It's so true.
It's
Ah,
perfect.
it is funny. Ah,
Best job, actually. You do stuff with your hands. You show up
oh.
whenever you want, and people are happy. And it's sometimes you get to be outdoors. I think it's
You could
it's
you could
it's a good
charge
alternative.
you could charge whatever's in your head. That'll
Yeah,
take me.
yeah,
No, I've tried to. I've been up on the roof, tried to do some of the stuff myself, and I soon get a little bit fed up with it. So your plans for the land, you're going to plant some fruit trees and grow some
yeah.
vegetables and
Already, yeah. I'm oh,
get
I'm I'm
chickens.
I'm already growing and eating vegetables
Ah,
from
that's amazing. It's the
from the
way
land,
forward.
which is a really good feeling. Yeah,
I don't know
and it's
whether.
something that balances me a lot, and
Mhm.
and I really love being at the studio, for 4 or 5 hours, and then I take like an hour break and I do something in the land, and then I go back.
Yeah.
And it's something because it's very mechanical, and if you're like in contact with the nature and all that, I think your brain, kind of, I know in the back I'm solving musical problems,
Hmm.
having, but then I'm also relaxing. So it's
Yeah.
something
You're allowed to
that I
breathe.
yeah, yeah. I think I
Yeah.
work much faster here in the country studio than I worked when I was in Lisbon, which I felt it was all. was all a lot of energy. If I came out, I would take a coffee and see someone, and it would be just excitement, 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 excitement. Here is more calm, but it seems like it's more constant. The work.
Do you think that's going to influence the way the sound comes out and the problems are solved, and the music will take on that sort of that flavor?
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
I'm just a bit afraid if I start composing a new Tigerman album that it will just be really
country and western or something.
Very slow songs. I don't know. So, but for the moment, since I'm mostly doing soundtracks, it's perfect.
Yeah. No, that's really nice. You know what? Also, I don't know whether I'm just imagining it, but when I'm eating my homegrown stuff, I don't get sick anymore, and I feel so much better physically and everything. It could be like part placebo, could be part health benefits, and who knows what we're eating sometimes. But,
I think so too. Yeah, but I think even just being in the country and seeing where eggs come from.
Yeah. You have
And
some
seeing
chickens.
grow and yeah.
Beautiful.
So yeah, it's super cool.
I think it's going to be, I think, we're going to see a lot of people doing this, Part of my reason for doing it as well is, I'm not like one of these people that are digging a hole in the earth and worrying about a nuclear war, but these kind of things are a little bit in the back of my mind in terms of security and having a place that my family, if they need to, they can come and we have our own food, our own water, our own energy, and we have our own space. These things, I think you go a little bit crazy when you start to think about defending a family and your loved ones.
And the world is so crazy.
Maybe that's what it is. You're saying the energy in Lisbon, but possibly it's also the energy outside in that outside world.
Yeah.
It's too much, and we need, even in our hands with the phones, and we need that to reconnect with the nature.
Yeah. The other day, I was writing. I was asked to write an article for the 100 days of President Trump for a Portuguese magazine, Visão. And I had this thought that's that's funny, I guess, that the world now looked a bit like a Marvel comic with supervillains taking over the world, and that we lack superheroes, or maybe not, or maybe there are a few, but what made Trump and Musk from all they could be, why they chose to be supervillains, and I blame on I blame on creators and on art to sometimes, if it's true that life influences art, and I think it's also true that sometimes art influences life, and I think probably Trump Trump and Musk were fascinated by the Joker and by all those supervillains, and even like the hair,
it's a caricature. Some parts of me still doesn't really believe all of that is real.
It's too weird.
I still think it's too far fetched.
But then reality is always crazier than fiction. So I don't know.
You couldn't have written it. And sometimes when you see Musk on his shoulder with his kid on his shoulder, next to Trump, and he's bouncing around, and I'm just like, we are really living in a weird time.
Really crazy. One of the craziest moments ever in the White House.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Who knows?
Maybe there were some crazier moments in private.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. No, I mean, I really, I think like in some ways, one of the reasons why I love Portugal, and it's perhaps that we don't watch the TV here. We don't have the news on 24/7, and we get that escape from that constant bombardment of storytelling and narratives, which just infect you a little bit. I don't want to be infected by, and you have to try very hard to block it out. And Otherwise, it can start to influence what you repeat to other people. You start to talk to someone else in a light conversation, small talk, and then you're realizing that you're repeating some rubbish that you saw on the news.
Yeah,
It kind of gets a little bit scary that even when you make that effort to be independent and not brainwashed, you find yourself.
it's true.
Yeah, yeah,
And but I think we really need to, educate ourselves on how to be in 1 million places at the same time. Sometimes it's not healthy, sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's inspiring. I think it's got a lot of different, aspects that are positive and negative, like everything. But I think there are, of course, a lot of negativity. It can be really addicting. It can be like anything else in the world. That's it.
yeah. It's certainly weird times we live in, and it's interesting because just the normal man, the way you think, just the thought processes that you have could actually have a value from anybody because the AI wants to learn from every single individual in some respect and gather that data. So even if you
Yeah.
have the most mundane thoughts, um, it's still a creation and possibly needed by the AI to balance out the universal man's thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. And I honestly don't think we are made to be in 100 places at the same time and
Yeah.
and connect with 100 realities at the same time, which is what we do if we scroll for 5 minutes on Instagram and then we see what other 100 people are doing in this, or not in this precise moment, or maybe not this precise moment, but it's a lot of information to process, and I think it's just, the top of it is just mud. We get just mudded with images and information and stuff
Yeah.
that we don't.
You just wonder how the kids are learning today and how they're scrolling and how they interact with screens and things going on at the time. Maybe there's a time, a little couple of little steps towards evolution there. If I gave my grandfather an iPhone, his interaction with it would be a lot different from mine. And now I'm seeing my son when he's interacting with his iPad, like he's shifting things around and he can't even read. So what he's doing with it at 5 years old is kind of incredible. And I just wonder whether we're going to evolve to be able to exist in all these different potential dimensions. Yeah, weird one.
Yeah, yeah, and actually, right now I'm working on something that it's somehow between film, augmented reality, and virtual reality, and I think that's something
Mm,
that can be very interesting in art in the near future, but can be very dangerous too, because most of the work and most of the apps that are being developed is just to introduce the digital world in the real world in a much more organic way, maybe with sunglasses like this
yeah.
in the very near, very, 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 very near future. And maybe with just contact lenses in the very near future too. So you can look at reality and have stats about, what's happening, or you look at the plant and you get info about what if it needs watering or whatever it needs. And do we need that? I don't know. I'm not sure we need,
Yeah.
but
I don't think I need it, but perhaps the younger generations, they
yeah,
won't be able to
but
live
again,
without
I
it,
think it's totally going in that direction, and I think it can be very dangerous, because then, yeah, if it's already difficult now to tell reality from or truth from fake or whatever, uh, I think in the future it's gonna be really, in the near future, it's gonna be really, really hard. to tell a lie from the truth. So that's gonna be very dangerous. And with all the political, environment all over Europe and all over the world, I think we really need to resist
Do you
resist.
think it's big? Do you think that we've always been a part of some kind of matrix, but now we are generally waking up from it, or do you think it's just another chain of realities which are being imposed on us, another layer of
Well,
confusion to distract us?
I'm really not sure. I think a lot of us have realized, that meritocracy and even democracy, how it is right now, it's not really working, or because it's mostly being controlled by capitalism and being forced, into since we are babies, we are told that if we are valid is when you are rich. And most people that I know that are rich are assholes, and are rich because they are assholes, and they don't treat people well. And if you treat people well, you probably will never get rich because you
Yeah.
you will want to pay
You
people
give it all away.
well. And and you don't want everything for yourself and all that stuff. So I think, we are being told lies, or not lies. It's something that being successfully is something very different. Being successful for me is doing whatever I want, be happy. Of course, you need money to some of the stuff, but for other stuff, you don't need money. You just need to be a good person, and you can always choose what kind of energy you throw out in the world. And we go back again. What makes Musk and Trump, choosing between being a superhero or being a supervillain, and it shows
Yeah.
being supervillains. Um, and that's fascinating too. That's interesting too for me as an artist too.
Well,
To
I think modern times we're not short of rich material to be an artist.
Yeah,
I think that's the benefit of the future that we're going to live in, and what we currently live in now is that it's a rich paradise of controversy, of craziness, and
yeah,
I think that's where the artist likes to be and likes to absorb and think and
yeah, yeah.
express themselves, and then yeah, great, Paulo.
It
I
was
think
great talking to you, Justin.
yeah, man, I really appreciate your time. It was a really fascinating conversation. It's always nice to spend so much time talking with someone, and you find things that you have in common, and then you go down some really interesting paths. Yeah, thanks so much. Really good one. I'm looking forward to listening back through this.
Yeah, man. Thanks for your time too, and thanks for your patience, because it took us a few months to get this.
No, I appreciate you're busy, and we get there when we get there. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And if there's somewhere, because this will go out on all the different podcast platforms and
Mhm.
on the Podcast Portugal .com website, if there's a link or to your website or
Yeah,
somewhere
yeah,
where people can find
yeah.
out
I
about
think the
everything that
best
you do.
is you drop me an email, and then I'll put you.
Okay, cool.
Left you my email on Instagram, and then I'll share with you all the stuff.
Great. And even I don't know. I mean, this might be cheeky for me to ask, but even if you have a little bit of a jingle lying around, we could have I could audio record in a Legendary Tigerman jingle into the podcast.
Yeah, I can check if I have something that I'm not using. Sure.
Yeah, it just needs to be a little bit of a jingle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
That'd be cool. Just as an off, just a one-off.
Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, if you have it lying around, that's cool.
Yeah.
But Paulo, appreciate it so much, man. Thank you so much.
You too.
Great to talk to you.
Take care, man. Have a good week. Okay.
You too.
Bye-bye.
This is Podcast Portugal. What a great episode. Thank you. Over and out.
Thank you.
I wanna taste you right. I wanna feel your bite. I wanna get down on you. I'll take you on a roller coaster ride. I'll take you to the moon and back. But baby, please ask no questions if you want no lies. You know I'm a good girl.